Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat
welcome.
Shabbat Shalom.
Those are some good hellos. It's really, really wonderful to see everybody. We'll start together on page 31 in the Siddur.
החמה מראש האילנות נסתלקה בו ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. החמה מראש האילנות נסתלקה בו ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. הנה היא יורדת הקדושה הברוכה ונישא מלאכים צבא שלום ומנוחה. בואי המלכה, בואי הכלה. החמה מראש האילנות נסתלקה בו ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. החמה מראש האילנות נסתלקה בו ונצא לקראת שבת המלכה. הנה היא יורדת הקדושה הברוכה ועמה המלאכים צבא שלום ומנוחה. בואי המלכה, בואי הכלה. בואי המלכה, בואי הכלה. שלום עליכם מלאכי שלום, שלום עליכם מלאכי
Tonight, we gather to welcome in and celebrate Shabbat, regardless of what kind of week we had. If it was a great one, if it was a hard one, if it dragged by so slowly, if it flew by so quickly we can't believe it's Shabbos again because it feels like it was Shabbos 5 minutes ago. Wherever you are in your mind, welcome to be here together in this place, those of us here in this room and those of you watching at home or wherever you are. We are also tonight marking Human Rights Shabbat, a Shabbat close to International Human Rights Day, which Tru'ah, the Rabbinic Call for Human Rights, has invited congregations all over the place to mark as Human Rights Shabbat. And we are thrilled to be celebrating the Shabbat, the Bat Mitzvah of Sammy Doyle, which we will be observing tomorrow right here in the sanctuary. And so we're thrilled to invite Sammy and family to come and join us up here for the blessings for the candles, which are on page 38.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר, להדליק נר של שבת.
Please stand in body or in spirit. Page 40.
Shalom aleichem, malachei hasharet, malachei elyon, melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Boachem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Baruchuni leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Tzeitem leshalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu.
Please be seated. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Please take a minute to introduce yourselves to the people sitting next to you or in the chat to introduce yourselves and where you're from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Do we have anyone here who is at CBST for the first time tonight? Raise your hand. Welcome. Nice. Yeah, some very newcomers over there in the second row. Where are you from? Great to have you. How about you? Welcome. Great. We're so happy that you're with us. Nice. Nice. All right. So we're really gathering the masses into being here in the sanctuary. It's perfect. I love it. It's wonderful to see everybody here. Shabbat Shalom. And one more. Where am I looking? Welcome. Manhattan's good too. we're happy to be here. We turn to page 52.
לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. נריע, נריע לצור אישנו, נקדמה פניו בתודה. נריע, נריע לצור אישנו, בזמירות נריע לו. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני. לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה, לכו נרננה לאדוני.
Page 60.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
The Siddur, the prayer book, is an invitation. It's an invitation to each of us to find our way in to prayer, to meditation, to focus. For each of us, it's going to be a different path. Some of us open the pages and we feel at home right away, and we hear the music and we hear the words and we know this is it. I'm here, it's Shabbat, I'm here. For some of us, it's a windier path, and when we open the Siddur, we're not exactly sure if we fit, if we find ourselves. And so wherever you are on the spectrum, whether it's very familiar, I want to challenge you to find something that you've never noticed before in the pages of the Siddur, something you've never noticed about the magical way that Joy plays the piano that's davening with her fingers, something that you've never noticed about the way that Sam can make a psalm or a prayer that you've heard a million times feel new. Or if it is new for you and you're trying to figure out, or maybe not new, but just not sure if it's your thing, then look at all of the ways that the Siddur and the service offers you to explore, to find yourself. It might be in the words on the page, in Hebrew or in English. It might be in a poem or a note below the line. There are all kinds of gems in here, some ancient pieces of liturgy, some contemporary poems or writings by amazing LGBT poets or writers, by members of this community. It might be to close your eyes and just lose yourself in the music. Whichever your way in, explore it, try it on, see how it feels. It's all here for you, to invite you to discover and find your way into Shabbat. We turn to page 62. Please stand in body or in spirit.
מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בני אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים אל הכבוד הרים, אדוני חוזה הלבנון, וירקיתם כמו עגל לבנון וסיריון, לבנון וסיריון, כמו בן ריימים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני חולל עיילות, ויחשוף יערות והיכלו כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו השלום.
Please be seated. Page 66.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קום מצאי מתוך ההפיכה. רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלי חמלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי. על יד בית ישי בית הלחמי, כל כלה, פני שבת נקווה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. שבת נקווה, לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תחמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונבנתה עיר עתילה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, שבת נקווה, והיו למשיסה שוסייך, ורחקו פה מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס לב באהבה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, שבת נקווה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי, על ידיש בין ארצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, שבת נקווה. בואי ושלום עטרת שכינה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה. איי 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 שבת נקווה, איי 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 לך דודי, איי 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 לקראת כלה, איי 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 פני שבת נקווה. לה.
Please be seated. Page 72, the Psalm for Shabbat. It is good to be grateful. It is good to practice gratitude. All week long, we want. We want to buy things. We want to be things. We want to change things. We're so aware of what we want, of what we can get, of what we can't get, but we wish we could get, about what we wish we had, about our disappointments and our resentments, about what we don't have and other people have. It's easy to want things. It's easy to count all the things we want and all the things we don't have. It's easy to buy things in this world, too easy sometimes. And sometimes we remember to say thank you, and sometimes we don't, because the definition of a transaction is exchanging something for the thing that we want. And usually we just get out of there, or we do it online, so we don't even have to interact with anybody. And thank you is not even on the table. It's easy to want. It's easy to get, to acquire, to wish, to regret, to resent. It's not as easy to feel grateful. The Psalm for Shabbat is a psalm of gratitude. Tov lehodot. It is good to be grateful, to express gratitude. So as we sing the words of this song, think of one specific real thing for which you are grateful. Maybe you've expressed gratitude for it and maybe you haven't. Something that you are grateful is in your life. It could be a physical thing, it could be a person, it could be a relationship, it could be a spiritual thing, it could be a community. Something for which you are grateful. And be grateful. Express that gratitude, sit in that gratitude. Tov lehodot.
Mizmor shir le'yom ha'shabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai Tov lehodot l'Adonai ulezamer לשמך עליון טוב להודות לאדוני להגיד בבוקר חסדך להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות ואמונתך בלילות טוב להודות לאדוני.
Page 78. Please stand in body or in spirit.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated. On the bottom of page 81, the stars in the sky can be difficult to discern from the urban sidewalk. The dusk is an elusive guest. So what can we moderns, we city dwellers, make of Ma'ariv Aravim? Perhaps the prayer functions not just to glorify creation, as our ancestors presumably intended, but like the rosy clouded sunset over the ink blue Hudson, like the moon rising fast and large over the Queen's skyline. Ma'ariv Aravim comes not just to sanctify creation, but to remind us simply that it is there. Page 85, at the bottom of the page.
ומעריבה יום ומביאה לילה ומבדילה בין יום ובין לילה שכינת צבאות שמך אל חיה וקיימת תמיד תמלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוכה את שכינה המעריבה ערבים
You'll notice throughout the Siddur, the Chatimot, the coda for each prayer appears twice, appears in God language using masculine pronouns and conjugation in the Hebrew and with feminine pronouns and conjugation in the Hebrew. God defies gender. God is all genders, and no gender certainly cannot be limited by gender, as language often limits God. Where language is limited, it's really about the limitation of the author, limitation of the linguists. It's not about the limitation of the divine. And whatever our relationship or struggle with the divine, we engage in many different ways. And the Siddur tries to offer us different ways, different gendered ways, different less gendered ways, so that that particular thing need not be a barrier, so that we can remember that gender is expansive and holy and never defined by someone else, but is about locating and expressing our own truth in a way that sometimes evolves, in a way that is sometimes very strong, sometimes very confusing, and always holy. Page 86.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת תורה ומצוות חוקים ומשפטים אותנו לימדת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך אהבת אהבת עולם בית ישראל עמך משפטים אותנו לימדת תורה ומצוות תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני. אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
We continue individually with the second two paragraphs of the Shema.
Adonai Elohechem.
Amen. Page 94 at the asterisk.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי ענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך, אדוני לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פד אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Page 98, we pray for peace.
Elohim ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ותקננו ביצה טובה מלפניך והושיענו למען שמך.
Please join me on page 99. Help us, O God, to lie down in peace and teach us that peace means more than quiet. Remind us that if we are to be at peace at night, we must take heed of how we live by day. Grant us the peace that comes from honest dealing, so that no fear of discovery will haunt our sleep. Rid us of resentments and hatreds that rob us of the peace we crave. May we inflict no pain, bring no shame, and seek no profit by another's loss. May we live so that we can face the whole world with serenity. May we need feel no remorse at night for what we have done during the day. May we need feel no remorse in the daytime for what we have done at night. May we lie down in peace tonight and waken tomorrow to a richer and fuller life.
ושמור צאתנו בואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל כל העמים ועל ירושלים.
Page 102, please stand in body or in spirit.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש וביום השביעי
We remain standing for Chatzi Kaddish on page 104, after which we'll go directly into the silent standing Amidah. Use the time the way you need to tonight. The words are on the pages of the Siddur through page 119, or there's an alternative Amidah beginning on page 124, or just be in this space and pray the words in your heart.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה קילותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביומי חון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו אמן.
If you're still praying your Amidah, please continue. Take all the time you need. If you finish, please join us on page 114, the last line of the page.
ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. וכל החיים יודוך סלע ויהללו את שמך באמת, האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו, עזרתנו סלע. ועל כולם, ועל כולם, יתברך ויתרומם, יתברך ויתרומם, שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, הטוב שמך, הטוב שמך, ולך עושה שלום במרומיו,
Page 118.
הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל יום.
We pray for healing, page 131. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, bless us too. Bless and heal all those who are ill. We pray tonight for refuah, for healing, for Shana Call, Ron Cohen, Pearl Fisk, Charles Raymond Jacobs, Mimi Jefferson, Elise Cookie Sofer, Rose Wanan, Harav Yosef Mordechai ben Aryeh Vishulamit, Eliezer ben Yehudit Venesha, Shuli Elisheva bat Elka Rivka, Yehudit bat Eliezer Velea. Please say out loud or put in the chat the names of anyone else for whom you pray for healing tonight. May God, who granted blessings to our ancestors and healed them of their pain, also remember us today and visit us with your blessings. May you give comfort and strength to all who are ill and help us to be well again. Remember those of us whose bodies need comfort and strength, healing and renewal. Remember, too, those of us who are faint of heart, whose pain and anguish are emotional and psychological, pain of the soul rather than of the body. Give strength to those of us who are fighting the many dependencies and addictions of the modern world, and give us the strength to proceed in our recoveries. Help all of us as we are affected by HIV, AIDS, cancers, and other diseases, those of us who are ill, those who are not but may yet be, those who are affected by the suffering of others. Bring healing to our families and friends and all we know. God, heal us all of our illnesses, physical, emotional, and spiritual, and let us find shalom. Remember us and all others who need your help. Refa'eni Adonai v'nirapeh, Hoshienu v'nivashea. Heal us, Eternal One, and we shall be healed. Save us, and we will be protected. Provide us a full healing from all our afflictions. Praised are you, healer of the sick.
Amen.
We now invite tomorrow's bat mitzvah, Sammy Doyle, to lead us in the prayer for the country. Can I do the first one?
Is the mic turned on?
Is the mic on?
Yeah, it needs to be switched on.
Just like until then.
Our God and God of our ancestors, bless this country and all who dwell within it. Help us to experience the blessings of our lives and circumstances, to be vigilant, compassionate, and brave. Strengthen us when we are afraid. Help us to channel our anger so that it motivates us to action. Help us to feel our fear so that we do not become numb. Help us to be generous with others so that we raise each other up. Help us to be humble in our fear, knowing that as vulnerable as we feel, there are those at greater risk, and that is our holy work to stand with them. Help us to taste the sweetness of liberty, to not take for granted the freedoms won in generations past or in recent days, to heal and nourish our democracy, that it may be like a tree planted by the water, whose roots reach down to the stream. It need not fear drought when it comes. Its leaves are always green.
Amen. And Mazel Tov. I'm very excited to celebrate with you tomorrow. As we said earlier, tonight is also Human Rights Shabbat, when we mark with communities all over the place the anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In the wake of the atrocities of World War II and the Shoah, it became clear that there needed to be international consensus that what existed up until that point did not sufficiently define the rights that needed to be enshrined for all of humanity. And there was a process which also was about defining atrocities and war crimes so that the perpetrators would be held accountable. Of course, this process of creating the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was shepherded by Eleanor Roosevelt. One of the key drafters of the Declaration was René Cassin, a French Jew and a noted jurist who later won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work in creating this. I'm just going to read a couple of excerpts from the declaration. I really encourage you to spend some time this weekend reading it. It's very easy to Google it. You can find it online on the Truah website or really anywhere. And remember what is in here, and remember what our responsibility is to continue advocating and agitating and protecting the rights of every human on this earth. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in the spirit of brotherhood and siblinghood. Everyone is entitled to the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all of their forms. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Read it, learn it, remember it, act for it. We turn now to page 138 for Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ועל מדברה קילותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וימיכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלות הון ובעוד הון לכל ישראל קודם אבו הון דבישמיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
ויאמר יוסף אל אחיו גשו נא עלי ויגשו. ויאמר אני יוסף אחיכם אשר מכרתם אותי מצרימה. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. And they came close. And he said, I am your brother Joseph, who you sold into Egypt. Now don't be distressed or reproach yourselves because you sold me here. It was to save life that God sent me ahead of you. In this parsha, Vayigash, which plays on that word to draw close, we see the dramatic climax of Joseph's narrative. After all that has befallen Joseph, will he see success? Will he reunite with his family? Will the children of Israel avert climate disaster and global crisis to find safety in an adopted nation where they will have enough to eat? The answers to all of these questions is a resounding yes. While perfectly imperfect, not suggesting that the harm that was done to Joseph would be magically undone, Parshat Vayigash delivers the happy ending we didn't know if Joseph would find. The closure is exquisite, and we're set up perfectly for the next chapter, the next book, as a matter of fact, the book of Exodus, when the next great challenge faces the children of Israel. But as I read Parshat Vayigash this year, I am struck by such personal connection that I actually struggled to put together the words to share the experience with all of you. It is not my story that I see in Joseph's narrative, but the story of a young man whose life has intersected with mine, a story I have piece by piece been sharing with more and more of you. This is the story of a young man in this generation, a young traveler who encounters a world far from his own, which he moves to adopt, learning from his experience in new ways that follow him throughout his life and seeking unification for his family in a new land. Some of you may already know this, but for years, my husband, David, was a summer camp counselor at Seeds of Peace in Maine. Seeds is a beautiful vision which brings Israeli and Palestinian children to neutral ground on a lake shore in Maine and has them actually talk to each other. The program has expanded mightily over decades and began to bring in campers from many conflict-torn regions all over the world: India and Pakistan, the Balkans, Afghanistan, and even recently resettled Somali immigrants to Maine and multi-generational residents of those same towns. In the year 2008, David had a 13-year-old camper in his bunk named Shapur, who came as part of a delegation from Kabul, Afghanistan. Shapur was a kid full of sweetness and laughter. David would describe how he would look at the lake in awe, as bodies of water such as this were completely new to him when compared with the urban landscape of Kabul. He would whisper, "How beautiful it is." David cried when he brought Shapur to the airport the week that he returned to Afghanistan. In the years that have passed, David and Shapur have kept in touch. Shapur grew up. He's a young man now, married, still living in Kabul, and using his language and his communication skills as a data scientist. In August of this year, as American troops counted down to their full withdrawal from Afghanistan, David received a panicked message from Shapur. Kabul had already fallen to the Taliban, and he didn't know who else to ask. He and his family couldn't escape by land through Pakistan, and bombs were going off at the airport. Please, was there any way that David could help? I think of Joseph, thrown in a pit by those he trusted. I think about the chapters of his story where every door was closed to him. I think of the wells he dug deep within himself, his dreams he refused to forget, his talents he put to any use just to find a way forward. We went into overdrive. We called everyone we knew. David was ringing contacts from Seeds of Peace. I panically called Rabbi Kleinbaum and Noemi Maslia and Tanya Domi, who I will never be able to thank enough for talking us through this first chapter. There were practically no options. The news was full of Afghans who had risked their lives for U.S. armed forces, who had invested in creating democratic infrastructure, girls who had simply attended school, all of whom were being left behind in desperation, with no knowledge of what life under the Taliban would mean for them, or how long they might live inside it. The single pathway that was available to us was in the form of a plea to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services for a visa for expedited humanitarian parole. Humanitarian parole allows an individual who has a compelling emergency and an urgent humanitarian reason allowance to enter the United States temporarily, and more importantly, a visa to leave their country of origin. Once in the US, Afghans are eligible to apply for refugee status and 2 years of residence in order to process immigration and citizenship filing. But first, you have to get out of Afghanistan. We reached back to Shapur with this information, offering that we would personally act as his sponsors. He wondered if we might find others willing to sponsor the immediate members of his family, his brother and his baby niece, who had already been served with a death threat from the Taliban for acting as part of the traitorous Kabul civic government, his elderly parents, all of whom have fled their homes and are in hiding. We connected with Seeds of Peace to try to find additional alumni who could serve as sponsors, only to discover that 250 Afghan Seeds and their families were now reaching out to every thread that they could grasp to find someone to serve as their humanitarian parole sponsors. Seeds had helpful advice, but very little bandwidth and overwhelming need. And so we turned to CBST. We barreled through hundreds of pages of documentation that accompanied the 2 slender forms that represent the entirety of a humanitarian parole request, approving financial fitness as sponsors and documenting the credibility of the threats that face Shapur and his wife as former seeds. I am endlessly grateful to Rabbi James and to Noah Habib, especially the coordinator of our ARC Immigration Clinic here at CBST, both of whom sprang into action and acquired the expertise on the go to support us. Noah himself personally stepped up to sponsor a member of Shapur's family, which is not part of his job description. Rabbi James and Noah led a webinar that many of you attended with guidance from the Maslea firm about what it means and how to serve as a sponsor on a humanitarian parole visa. Incredible CBST members and CBST rabbis, members like Harold Levine, who's here tonight, have stepped up for each member of Shapur's family to submit these applications and to financially support the application fee of $575 per member per household, all payable directly to USCIS. I think of the life that Joseph was able to create for himself in Egypt. After no small number of setbacks and trials, he is able to rise and even act as leader and savior to his adopted country, who recognizes the gifts he has to offer. In one of the earliest models of an immigration story, in every literal sense a diaspora Jew, Joseph creates a life and a family for himself in Egypt. Would that this be the way that Shapur's story could end too. On Monday this week, we received devastating news. After months where over 40,000 applications for humanitarian parole received by USCIS have been stuck in limbo, the vast majority of these on behalf of Afghan nationals with credible threats against their lives, we are seeing a sky-high wave of outright denials. A new and much higher evidentiary standard has been put into place and is being retroactively applied to these tens of thousands of pending applicants who are in the midst of a humanitarian crisis. It insists on documentation from a credible third-party source specifically naming the beneficiary and outlining the serious harm they faced and the imminence of said harm, akin to asking these Afghans who fear for their lives to come up with a notarized statement from their persecutor. And all the while, as a result of these 40,000 applications, USCIS has collected more than $17,250,000 in filing fees. As a beloved advisor put it to us, our ugly immigration history is repeating itself once again. This is a bureaucratic version of the voyage of the St. Louis, the infamous and heartless turnaround of an ocean liner carrying almost 1,000 German Jewish refugees seeking safe haven during the Holocaust. V'hakol nishmat bet paro lemor, ba'u achei Yosef, vayitav be'enei paro, uve'enei avadav. The news reached Pharaoh's palace. Joseph's brothers have come. Pharaoh and his courtiers were pleased, and Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Say to your brothers, do as follows. Load up your beast, go at once to the land of Canaan. Take your father and your households, come to me. I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will live off the fullness of our land." This Shabbat Vayigash, which happens to be Human Rights Shabbat, the anniversary of the adoption of the Declaration of Human Rights by the UN, enshrining basic human rights for all people, including the freedom of movement, thought, religion, and protection against harm and torture. In this week's Torah portion, we see an unbelievably progressive policy towards the welcome of refugee and migrants, and it comes from the Pharaoh of Egypt. This is the Pharaoh who knows Joseph, who has trusted him and his allegiance to his adopted country. Pharaoh has stood alongside Joseph, who, I might add, is a migrant and a former convict. In good times and in bad, he has invested in him and in his vision, He has given him an immense amount of power and wealth. He has listened to him cry. He is the one example who we can only hope to emulate of a leader who, in a time of global crisis, threw his arms open wide to outsiders who were hungry and who welcomed them in. We would not be who we are had it not been for this welcome and the following chapter in Egypt. Israel would have perished and all of his descendants with him from starvation in their own land. And for practically every single person in this room tonight, online, from all corners of the globe, we would not be present here today had our ancestors not been welcomed home here in America. Friends, I must be honest and say that this is a very scary moment in which we are not sure what our next step is meant to be. If you have the personal ability to act as a sponsor for another Afghan Seeds of Peace alum, or if you can financially support us in paying the sky-high cost of application fees for humanitarian parole, you can email sanctuary@cbst.org. If you turn to page 6 in your program, and we're also sharing in the chat on live stream tonight, thank you, Sharon Golub, you will see a link to a letter you can sign being sent to President Biden and his Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. Secretary Mayorkas is himself an American Jewish immigrant, a second-generation Holocaust survivor, and he had announced in August that Afghan nationals vetted on a case-by-case basis would be extended humanitarian parole, which is why, despite the ever-growing odds stacked against us, we have been advised to continue the process of application, as it is currently the only realistic option for Shapur, for his family, and for tens of thousands of Afghans in the same position. A famine is coming to Afghanistan, both literal and figurative. And what I am begging for us to take away from Parshat Vayigash, this Human Rights Shabbat, is an imperative to draw close. Even though this story can seem so far away, we must draw closer to the values this ancient story directs us. A radical welcome of the stranger, a reaffirmation to do the next right thing that will draw us closer to God's destiny, to save life and to hold it precious. We must draw closer to the hurt that is happening on the other side of the world, because it is the same hurt that we have experienced in our own stories, whether personal or communal. Nachbesad drachenu v'nachkorach v'nashuva ad Adonai. Let us examine the paths we take and let them return us to God. On this anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights, let us, as an LGBTQ synagogue, a Jewish community who know the pain of the stranger and the immigrant in our bones and in our souls, open up the space to align our hearts to relieving the suffering of the stranger, whose stories we know so well because they are our own. Page 3 in your program.
Besad Racheinu Venachkora Venashuva Ad Adonai Nach Besad Racheinu Venachkora Venashuva Ad Adonai Nisan Levavenu El Kapayim דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אדוני נחפשה דרכינו ונחקורה ונשובה עד אדוני.
We stand with our bodies, with our spirits. We stand up and say, Aleinu l'shabeach, it is up to us to praise. Page 140.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שברא אותנו בצלמו, ונפח בנו את נשמת חיינו, שהעמיק אותנו בלימוד תורתו, וקישנו במצוותיה, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהונות השמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושבי קרוב בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. From the poet Marge Piercy, a part of our alternative Amidah. Bless the gift of memory that breaks unbidden, released from a flower or a cup of tea, so the dead move like rain through the room. Every time that we gather together as Jewish community, we make space for memory. We honor love and loss. And on this Shabbat, we surround with love CBS team member Scott Smith on the death of his aunt, Miriam Cohen, Zichrona Livracha, who died on December 8th. We honor the yard sites of those CBS team members that occur in this week: Eugene Berman, Robert Heller, Ralph Rosenblatt, Milton Roven, Selma Sager, May Shapiro, Gabe Stewart, Irving Weissman. And our family and friends: Jonathan Benov, Aryeh Berger, Monroe Barrel, David Black, Ray Cecilio, Daniel Cooper, Anna Elgarten, Daniel Ben Iser, Joseph Gold, Marvin Goodman, Harriet Gross, Helen Janover, Samuel Julie, Doris Katz, Henry Landman, Minnie Levin, Judith Levine, Lee Potosinski, Geraldine Rosenberg, Dorothy Rosenfeld, Hy Roven, and Les Wannen. We also offer condolences to the family, friends, and community of all of those who are dying each day from the COVID-19 pandemic. As of today, the total number of deaths are 34,940 in New York City, 58,542 in New York State, 815,413 across the United States, and 5,307,760 worldwide. And we know that these numbers could not be near close enough. If you are remembering someone on this Shabbat and you are joining us online, we invite you to share their names in the chat. And if it is your custom to stand when Kaddish is being recited, if you are in a period of mourning, Shiva, Shloshim, or the year of Avelut following someone's loss, please rise. And if you are honoring the Yortzeit, the anniversary of someone you love, I invite you to rise. And if it is your custom to stand with the mourners when Kaddish is recited, please do so at this time as we all join together on page 150. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei. B'chayei uvyomechon uvchayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam almei omaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yishpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal. Shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabbah min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru. Amen.
Amen.
Zichronam livracha. May all of these souls, may their memories be for blessing, and may we live our lives as a blessing to their memories. As we are seated, I present Lee Goldberg, member of the CBST Board of Directors, with his very own microphone.
No, you have to clean it up. I'll take the risk.
We give you your own.
Hey everyone, Shabbat Shalom. Good to see all of you tonight. So at the beginning of the service, Rabbi Cohen asked us to think about what makes us grateful and reflect on gratitude. And I'll share what I reflected on. I reflected on just being here in this space with all of you every week, and how great it makes me feel to end my week this way. And then I heard Rabbi Rapport talk about the power of this community and how this community comes together. And it just felt like kismet, almost, to hear that and to realize, wow, this really is a special place that we have together. So thank you so much to everyone who's here tonight and who makes this such a special community. We are really, really lucky to have each other. We're lucky to have Rabbi Cohen. Thank you for your service leadership tonight. Rabbi Rapport, for your drash. I didn't know about the long-term connection that your family had to Shapur. So thank you for sharing that deeply personal story with us. To music director Joyce Rosenzweig, cantorial intern Sam Rosen, the two of you make beautiful music together. That Nach Passah was really special, so thank you. And since we haven't said it in a few weeks, I want to thank our resident AV nerd, Jason Zivic. Jason, thank you. Great work. And Sharon Golub, thank you for handling the chat as always. Okay, The services continue tomorrow morning with the B mitzvah of Sammy Doyle. Sammy, Mazel Tov. Good luck tomorrow. It will be led by Rabbi Ayelet Cohen and Rabbi Yael Rapport, and featuring Baal Tefillah Sam Rosen. We'll conclude Shabbat tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with Rabbi Mike Moskowitz. On Monday night, we have our annual Broadway concert. It's at 7 o'clock. We are almost completely sold out for the live portion of that, so not for the online, but for the live portion, we're almost sold out. So if you would like to be here and see our Broadway stars in person, please do buy your tickets as soon as possible. Our annual meeting is this Thursday night at 6 p.m., and then next Friday night at the regular time is our board installation Shabbat. So I'm going to turn it over to Michael Levine for a brief announcement about our annual meeting. Shabbat Shalom. I'm not wiping this off, so take a risk.
Thank you, Lee. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And again, we have two exciting events next week. We have our Broadway concert, and we have CBST's annual membership meeting. This is your second and final reminder that the meeting, as Lee just said, is this Thursday, December 16th, 6 p.m., live in the sanctuary or by Zoom. It's going to be an exciting meeting. We're going to have a report from the president. We're going to have a report from our clergy. We're going to have a report from our treasurer. And we're going to meet the candidates for election to CBST's board of directors. It will be a very exciting meeting, but we need your help. We need you to register, either online, to attend online, or to attend in person, but you must submit a proxy form. The proxy will enable us to hold a duly constituted meeting to make sure that we have a sufficient number of members in good standing of the congregation present to conduct the meeting, and also it will give you the opportunity to vote. All voting this year will be based upon proxies submitted to us in advance, online proxies. The online proxy will have your support for, or you can vote in favor, you can vote objecting, or you can abstain to vote for the proposed budget for 2022. You can vote for the amendment to the bylaws, and of course, after you have met the candidates for office to our board of directors, 3 directors seeking return 3-year terms, and 2 members of the congregation seeking new 3-year terms, you will have the opportunity to vote for these directors. So again, we will be voting for a budget, we will be voting for proposed bylaws, and after you have met the members of the congregation seeking election to our board of directors, you will have the opportunity to vote for them. Please submit your proxy to us no later than Wednesday, December 15th, the day before, at 3 p.m. It is crucial that we receive your proxy so that we can conduct the meeting. I look forward to seeing all of you present either here in the sanctuary or online at our annual membership meeting Thursday, December 16th at 6 p.m. Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Lee, for sharing those announcements with our community. And thank you, Michael, who is at his most resplendent when he is parliamentarian in chief. I would like to draw everybody's attention to this stunning booklet of a Shabbat program that we have in our hands, with many, many thanks to our brand new clergy admin assistant, Ari Mosbacher. Without them, we would not have this mini Bible, and we have missed it a lot. It has lyrics in it, it has announcements in it, and on the back, it has the fullness of everything that people are celebrating and remembering on this Shabbat. It is our custom that if there is more than 10 sponsorships, and there are so many beautiful reasons that people have sponsored the live stream tonight for major milestone moments, for birthdays and for remembrances, and for great accomplishments. We ask you to look to the back of the program because it will fill your heart with joy to be a part of this community, and we will be sharing a slide of these announcements for our live streamers all over the world. We turn now to our closing song, which is one of our favorite Ladino selections, a part of our CBST songbook, No Como Nuestro Dios, There Is None Like Our God. And we are on, if I look to my program, I can tell you, page 155 in your Siddur.
אין כאלוהינו, אין כאדוננו, אין כמלכנו, אין כמושיענו. Non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. מיך אלוהינו, מיך אדוננו, מיך מלכנו, מיך מושיענו, כן como nuestro Dios, כן como nuestro Señor, כן como nuestro Rey, כן como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Lo haremos a nuestro Dios, lo haremos a nuestro Señor, lo haremos a nuestro Rey, lo haremos a nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Bendito nuestro Dios, bendito nuestro Señor, bendito nuestro Rey, bendito nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tú el nuestro Dios, tú el nuestro Señor, tú el nuestro Rey, tú el nuestro
We rise in body and spirit on page 156 for Kiddush. We would also like on this Human Rights Shabbat to invite all of those who are embedded in the work of human rights. We have several human rights lawyers in the room, immigration lawyers, those who volunteer with our ARC clinic at CBST, those who are acting as humanitarian parole sponsors for Afghan nationals. Please join us at the Bima, and you will hold up our chalot.
יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו. כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו, אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. סברי חבריי וחברותיי,
L'chaim.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחין לנו, זיכרון למעשה וראשית. כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת, עם כל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. And now we reach towards our shared source of blessing as we recite Motzi for all the good things that those in person get to take on their way out.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.